I'm Olivia, and for more than 30 years, I've lived inside the world of finance and accounting. And today I want to share something with you that almost nobody says out loud. There's an engineer in New York earning $350,000 a year, driving a leased luxury car, sending her kids to private school, eating out most weeknights, paying a $4,000 monthly mortgage, and on paper she looks wealthy. Yet in reality, she can't put her hands on $5,000 in cash without selling something or going into debt. And this isn't a hypothetical. According to a 2025 report from Goldman Sachs, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 live paycheck to paycheck. And 40% of those earning over $500,000 report the exact same thing. Someone earning $500,000 a year makes more in a month than many Americans make in a year, yet they carry the same financial anxiety as someone earning a fraction of that, feeling like they have no safety net at all, because most people assume income solves financial problems, that once you cross into six figures, the struggle disappears, that past $250,000 the worries end, that past $500,000 money simply stops mattering. But the data tells a completely different story. What you're witnessing is called the high income poverty trap. The more people earn, the more they spend, while their savings rate stays exactly the same. And you wake up at 55 wondering where it all went. Because what matters isn't how much you earn, it's how much you keep. My goal isn't to judge anyone's spending, it's to help you understand a trap affecting millions of people who never see it coming because they believed rising income meant rising freedom. So let me walk you through exactly who falls into this trap and how to know whether you're already caught in it, because the numbers reveal something that goes against everything we assume about financial stress in America. According to a 2025 Bank of America analysis, which defines paycheck to paycheck living as spending more than 95% of income on basic needs, Americans earning $100,000 a year are actually more likely to report living paycheck to paycheck than those earning $50,000. Higher income is associated with higher reported financial distress within certain brackets. And as of 2025, roughly 24% of all American households fit this description, and these aren't people who don't understand math. They're highly educated professionals who understand compound interest and retirement math perfectly well, which tells you this trap isn't mathematical, it's psychological. Because as income rises, lifestyle rises with it, and spending grows right along with it. We call this lifestyle inflation, and it moves so slowly that almost nobody notices. A $15 lunch becomes a $25 lunch. The car quietly moves up a class. A perfectly adequate apartment turns into a house with a guest room. Nobody uses. Every single upgrade feels reasonable in the moment, yet while spending keeps compounding, savings stay flat. And once a luxury becomes routine, giving it up feels like loss instead of simply returning to normal. Research on real millionaires paints an entirely different picture. It turns out millionaires rarely look like millionaires. They live in ordinary homes, drive ordinary cars, and rarely show off their wealth. More than 60% of millionaires keep budgeting and avoid unnecessary luxury spending even after crossing the $1 million mark, rarely spending more than $400 on a single piece of clothing. And Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500, which reveals a fascinating paradox. The professional driving the cheapest luxury car available looks far wealthier than the ordinary employee driving a 10-year-old truck who actually has $2 million invested. Yet the opposite is true. Wealth is determined by spending habits, not income, so much so that someone earning $50,000 a year can end up building more wealth than a doctor earning $700,000. And there's a simple formula for this: multiply your age by your pre tax annual income and divide by 10. And that's roughly what your net worth should be. For example, someone earning $200,000 at age 50 should have close to $1 million in net worth. And anyone below that number is spending what should be saved, which describes most high earners. According to a 2025 wealth survey from Charles Schwab, Americans believe you need $2.3 million dollars to be considered wealthy and $839,000 just to feel financially comfortable, while the median net worth of American households sits around $193,000, which shows you the enormous gap between what people think they need and what they actually have. And the bar for wealthy keeps rising every single year, so the definition of enough never stays still. Someone earning $350,000 with a net worth of $250,000 doesn't feel wealthy at all. And as the numbers grow larger, you just keep running to avoid falling behind. When you look at 2025 credit card data by income bracket, lower income households carry the highest rates of debt because they're using credit to cover essentials once their cash runs out mid month, while higher income households use credit to maintain a lifestyle. But both end up carrying that interest, and total U.S. credit card debt hit $1.3 trillion dollars in 2025, the highest level in 25 years, a 66% jump from the pre pandemic lows of early 2021. And while high earners don't carry balances at quite the same rate as lower income households, their balances are still high enough that debt stops being temporary and becomes a permanent fixture. Both high and low earners spend roughly the same share of their income on housing, which means both groups feel equally squeezed. But for high earners, every expense simply comes with a bigger price tag: rent, tuition, vacations, one or more car payments. And once these become part of the lifestyle, there's no going back, because scaling back the vacation, pulling a child from private school, or downgrading the car all feel like public admissions of failure. So instead, people just delay these non essential expenses without ever actually giving up the habits behind them, which is exactly how the trap tightens its grip. The real key to this whole story is the savings rate. Americans save only a small fraction of their disposable income. The U.S. personal savings rate stood at just 3.6% in December of 2025, compared to 33.8% at the pandemic peak in April of 2020, when spending options simply disappeared and Americans experienced aggressive saving almost by accident. High earners do save slightly more in raw dollars, but relative to their spending, their savings rate stays just as thin. Someone earning $400,000 a year who saves 4% puts away $16,000 annually, while someone earning $80,000 saving that same 4% saves $3,200. The higher earner saves 5 times more in dollar terms, yet remains just as financially strained relative to their income and lifestyle costs. When you look at how millionaires who actually built wealth behave, they invest at least 15% of their annual income before covering non essential spending, treating saving as mandatory, not optional. And over time, the gap between 4% and 15% compounds into something massive. After 30 years, the 15% saver holds serious wealth, while the 4% saver ends up with a total that probably won't support a comfortable retirement. Social status and lifestyle make this trap even harder to see. Social media pulls everyone into a race, showing off vacations, purchases, and dinners out, making this whole spiral feel bigger and more urgent than it really is. And high earners competing with peers at the same income level to keep up with each other's spending is a clear driver of paycheck to paycheck living, which creates a strange dynamic where people in the top 5% of earners feel financially inadequate because they're comparing themselves to the top 1% or to people who aren't even wealthy, but appear that way through carefully curated social media highlight reels, some of whom are carrying more debt than they are. National spending data shows exactly where the money goes. Food delivery spending rose about 10%, rideshare spending rose about 8%, and dozens of small subscriptions keep quietly stacking up, adding up to serious money over time without delivering any lasting value. And the numbers get bigger. But the psychology stays exactly the same for high earners: business class flights, luxury hotels, restaurants. Each individual upgrade for comfort looks small on its own, but together they turn into a lifestyle that consumes the entire income. Research shows that millionaires actually spend more on experiences that matter to them personally than on luxury goods, but they cut ruthlessly everywhere else. And that selective spending is exactly what separates people who build real wealth from high earners caught in this trap. Where you live plays a major role in setting the bar for rich. In San Francisco, people say you need $4.4 million to be considered wealthy, $3.4 million in Southern California, and $2.9 million in New York because living in a high cost area inflates both your expenses and your expectations at the same time. So, someone earning $400,000 in New York can genuinely feel like they're struggling because housing, taxes, and basic costs eat up a much larger share of their income. The contrast with real millionaires couldn't be sharper. Research shows 79% of millionaires built their wealth entirely on their own with no inheritance. Only 31% ever averaged $100,000 or more a year across their careers. Most built wealth on modest incomes through years of consistent behavior. And 73% of millionaires never carried a credit card balance because they understood whether compound interest was working for them or against them, and they chose the side that built wealth. Someone earning $450,000 a year who saves nothing for 15 years has lost the most valuable compounding years of their life. And even if they start saving later, that lost time can never be recovered. There's still a way back, but it demands aggressive choices. The average millionaire spent 28 years working, saving, and investing before crossing that $1 million mark, most reaching it around age 49, and the path was slow and unglamorous, not dramatic or sudden, and that timeline matters because it shows you the real cost of this trap. Saving whatever's left after spending doesn't work. Spending whatever's left after saving does. Someone earning $450,000 who automatically invests $135,000 a year will build significant wealth no matter how they spend the remaining $315,000. They'll still live well, just slightly less flashily than someone earning the same amount who saves nothing at all. And 20 years later, the saver holds wealth that can last generations, while the spender is left with lifestyle memories and almost no assets. The math is simple. If you earn $300,000 and save 30%, that's $90,000 a year before returns. And at a 7% average return over 20 years, that grows to roughly $4 million. Earn the same amount but save only 5%. And you're setting aside just $15,000 a year, which grows to around $650,000 over that same period, a difference of $3.35 million, and that's the 20-year cost of the high-income poverty trap. This trap survives because people optimize for the wrong thing. Optimizing for lifestyle means maximizing what you consume today at the expense of your future flexibility, while optimizing for wealth means accepting constraint today in exchange for real choices tomorrow. Neither is inherently right or wrong, but only one of them actually delivers the financial security. High earners assume their income will provide. Automatically, a $250,000 income saved at 30% builds wealth far faster than a $450,000 income saved at just 5%. The outcome speaks for itself. More than half of Americans don't feel financially comfortable no matter how much they earn. While incomes sit near record highs, total credit card debt is breaking records right alongside them, and the evidence is clear. Income alone doesn't solve financial problems. It's the conscious choice of what to save instead of spend that actually produces a good outcome, and the only requirement for breaking free of this cycle is accepting that more money is never the solution by itself and building your path accordingly, because at the end of the day, what matters isn't how much you earn, it's what you do with it and how you choose to spend it. Remember, this information won't make you a billionaire overnight, but with the right mindset, it can completely transform your financial picture within 10 years. I'm waiting for your questions in the comments, and I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next video.